Captain Sarah Chen stared at the empty colony through the bridge viewport of the UES Endeavour. New Geneva should have been bustling with life. 2 million people called this world home just 3 months ago. Now silence filled the air like a disease. "Life signs?" she asked without turning from the window. "Nothing, Captain," replied Lieutenant Torres from his scanner station. "Not even bacteria. It's like someone scrubbed all organic matter from the planet." 20 years had passed since humanity met the Galactic Council. 12 ancient alien races had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, bringing peace and order to countless worlds. When Earth made first contact, the Council welcomed humanity with open arms. They offered knowledge, technology, and protection. In return, humans agreed to follow Council rules. Stay in your assigned systems. Use only approved technology. Submit all expansion plans for review. It seemed fair at the time. Humanity was new to space travel, barely capable of reaching nearby stars. The Council members traveled between galaxies like humans once crossed oceans. Their ships were marvels of engineering. Their weapons could crack planets, and their wisdom came from ages of experience. But something felt wrong about New Geneva. The buildings stood perfect and untouched. The power plants hummed with energy. Streets remained clean and well-maintained. Yet every living thing had vanished without a trace. "Take us down to the main settlement," Chen ordered. "Full environmental suits. I want bioscanners running constantly." The Endeavour landed in the central plaza of New Geneva City. Chen led a team of 6 crew members through empty streets that should have been filled with children playing and workers heading home. Instead, their footsteps echoed against vacant buildings like whispers in a tomb. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the ship's science officer, knelt beside a strange crystal formation growing from the sidewalk. The purple structure pulsed with inner light, casting weird shadows on nearby walls. "Captain, these crystals weren't here during our last survey," Tanaka said, running her scanner over the formation. "They're giving off energy readings I've never seen before. The pattern suggests some kind of extraction process." "Extraction of what?" "Organic compounds, specifically complex proteins and genetic material." Tanaka's voice carried a chill that had nothing to do with the planet's cool atmosphere. These things were designed to harvest biological matter. Chen felt her stomach turn cold. She had commanded deep space missions for 15 years. She had seen alien technology that seemed like magic. But this felt different. This felt predatory. "Keep scanning," she told Tanaka. "Torres, check the colony records. I want to know what happened in the last 48 hours before we lost contact." They moved through the colony like investigators at a crime scene. Every home told the same story. Meals left half-finished on tables. Beds that showed signs of recent use. Personal belongings scattered as if people had been interrupted during normal daily activities. But no signs of struggle. No damage to buildings or infrastructure. The people had simply stopped existing. Torres found the colony's main computer system intact and functioning. The final entries in the administrative logs painted a terrifying picture. "Captain, look at this," Torres called from the Central Command building. The last entry was logged 3 days ago. Colonial Administrator James Wright reported strange objects appearing in the system's outer asteroid belt. He requested permission to investigate. What did the Council say? They told him to ignore the objects and continue normal operations. Said they would handle any security concerns through proper channels. Chen read the final log entry herself. Wright's words carried growing alarm as he described more objects appearing each day, massive shapes that didn't match any known Council ship designs. When Wright tried to get closer sensor readings, the objects moved to block his scans. His last message requested immediate evacuation support for the colony. The Council's response had been swift and clear. Maintain normal operations. Do not attempt unauthorized contact with unknown vessels. Trust in Council protection. That was 3 days ago. Since then, nothing. "Tanaka, what's your analysis of these crystal formations?" The science officer looked up from her equipment with pale features. "The energy signatures indicate temporal displacement technology, Captain. But not like anything in our databases. This technology has been used multiple times in the same location, creating quantum echoes. Someone has been practicing here." "Practicing what?" "Perfecting the extraction process. I'm detecting at least 7 different temporal iterations, each one more efficient than the last." The implications hit Chen like a physical blow. Someone had used New Geneva as a testing ground. They had practiced harvesting the colony's population over and over again. using time manipulation to refine their technique. Then they had implemented their perfected method one final time. "Captain," Torres interrupted from his communication station, "I'm getting a priority message from Earth Command." The message appeared on the main screen. Director Marcus Webb, humanity's liaison to the Galactic Council, delivered his words with bureaucratic calm that made Chen's skin crawl. "Captain Chen, you are ordered to return to Earth immediately. The matter of New Geneva has been reported to proper council authorities and will be investigated through established protocols. Do not attempt further investigation of the colony. Do not share your findings with unauthorized personnel. The stability of human council relations depends on following proper procedures." Chen stared at the screen long after Webb's image disappeared. Proper procedures. Established protocols. 2 million people had been erased from existence, and the response was paperwork and politics. "Captain," Tanaka said quietly, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching the system. Multiple contacts, closing fast." The bridge screens lit up with tactical displays as unknown vessels dropped out of hyperspace. Chen had never seen ships like these before. They looked organic rather than manufactured, with flowing curves that resembled some deep ocean creature more than a starship. Each vessel was easily 10 times larger than the Endeavor. "Are those council ships?" Torres asked. "Negative," replied the tactical officer. "No energy signatures match council databases. These are something else entirely." The alien ships moved with predatory grace, positioning themselves between the Endeavor and the jump point back to Earth. Chen realized with growing horror that they had been expected. Someone knew humanity would investigate New Geneva eventually. Someone wanted to clean up any witnesses. "All hands, battle stations," Chen ordered. "Prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace." But the alien ships were already acting. Energy beams lanced out from their organic hulls, not trying to destroy the Endeavor, but something worse. Chen watched her navigation systems fail as the beams disrupted their jump drive. They were trapped. "Captain?" Tanaka called out, her voice tight with fear. "I'm reading the same temporal displacement signatures as the crystal formations. These ships are preparing to harvest us just like they did the colony." Chen looked around at her crew. 15 people who trusted her to bring them home safely. 15 people who might be about to suffer the same fate as 2 million colonists. "Send a message to Earth Command," she ordered. "Full tactical data on these alien vessels. Everything we've learned about New Geneva. Tell them the Council lied to us." "Message sent," Torres confirmed. The alien ships moved closer, and Chen could see strange appendages extending from their hulls like the feeding tentacles of some cosmic jellyfish. But humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars by refusing to give up when faced with extinction. "All power to engines," Chen commanded. "We're going to ram the closest ship and punch through their formation. If we're going to die, we're going to take some of them with us." The Endeavor's engines roared to life as the small human ship accelerated toward vessels that dwarfed it like minnows challenging whales. But sometimes Chen thought the minnows had teeth. The Endeavor's desperate charge caught the alien vessels off guard. Chen's ship slammed into the nearest bioship at full speed, tearing through organic hull plating like a bullet through skin. The impact sent shockwaves through both vessels, but the human ship's reinforced prow held together just long enough. "Jump drive is back online." Torres shouted over alarms and sparking control panels. "Jump now!" Chen ordered. Reality twisted as the Endeavor escaped into hyperspace, leaving the alien hunters behind. But Chen knew they had only bought themselves time. Those ships would follow once they repaired the damage. 3 days later, the Endeavor limped into Earth's solar system with hull breaches sealed by emergency patches and half their systems running on backup power. Chen expected a hero's welcome for surviving an impossible encounter. Instead, she found herself under arrest the moment they docked. Director Webb met them at the airlock with security guards and a face full of cold disapproval. "Captain Chen, you are relieved of command. Your crew will be debriefed and sworn to secrecy. The incident at New Geneva is classified at the highest levels. 2 million people are dead," Chen said. "Those weren't council ships that attacked us. The council has assured us that New Geneva was evacuated safely due to environmental concerns," Webb replied in his practiced bureaucrat voice. "Any reports to the contrary are mistaken." They put Chen in a holding cell deep beneath Earth Command headquarters. For 6 hours she sat alone with her thoughts and growing anger. Then the door opened and Admiral Elena Vasquez stepped inside. Chen knew Vasquez by reputation. The Admiral had commanded humanity's defense forces since first contact with the Council. She was known for asking hard questions that made politicians uncomfortable. "Sarah," Vasquez said, settling into the chair across from Chen. "Tell me what you really saw out there." Chen described everything. The empty colony with its signs of normal life interrupted. The crystal formations that pulsed with harvesting energy, the alien bioships that moved like predators. Vasquez listened without interruption, her expression growing darker with each detail. "I believe you," Vasquez said when Chen finished, because New Geneva wasn't the first. The Admiral activated a holographic display showing a star map of human space. 17 colonies were marked in red, scattered across the outer rim of human territory. "Over the past 5 years, we've lost contact with 17 settlements," Vasquez explained. Each time the Council provided explanations. Industrial accidents, voluntary relocations to better worlds, environmental disasters. We accepted their word because we trusted them. "But you investigated anyway," Chen guessed. "I sent covert reconnaissance teams to 3 of the supposedly evacuated colonies. They found the same thing you found at New Geneva. Empty settlements with crystal formations and signs of mass harvesting." Vasquez stood and paced the small cell like a caged predator. "Sarah, I'm going to tell you something that could get us both executed for treason. Humanity has been preparing for this moment since our first year in the Council." "Preparing for what?" "For the day we discovered that our alien benefactors were really alien predators." Vasquez explained that a secret organization within Earth's military had been operating since first contact. The Human Defense Initiative collected intelligence, developed hidden technologies, and prepared contingency plans for every possible betrayal. They called it being paranoid. It turned out to be survival. "We intercepted Council communications 5 years ago," Vasquez said. "It took our best codebreakers 3 years to translate even fragments, but what we found changed everything." The Admiral showed Chen classified files that made her blood freeze. Communications between Council member species discussing something called the Harvesting Protocol, ancient agreements about species management and population control. References to breeding programs and extraction quotas. "The Council divides species into categories," Vasquez explained. "Shepherds, workers, and livestock. The 12-member races are the shepherds. They manage the galaxy and harvest the livestock when population levels reach optimal points. And humanity? We're livestock, Sarah, we always were. The Council didn't invite us to join galactic civilization out of kindness. They were evaluating us for the dinner table." Chen felt sick as the implications sank in. Every human colony world had been carefully planned by Council advisors. Every population growth report had been filed with their approval. They had been helping humanity breed like cattle, preparing for an eventual harvest. "How long do we have?" Chen asked. "According to the intercepted communications, the Zephalians are scheduled to begin full-scale harvesting operations within 6 months. They're an insectoid hive species that specializes in biological processing. They've been conducting small-scale harvesting operations for 5 years to perfect their techniques, using our colonies as practice." "Exactly. New Geneva was probably their final test run before moving on to the major population centers." Vasquez activated another holographic display, showing massive shipyards hidden throughout the asteroid belt. Chen stared in amazement at the scale of construction, hundreds of vessels under construction, and not the exploration ships the Council had approved for human use. "For 20 years, we've been building a hidden fleet," Vasquez said. "While the Council thought they were limiting us to primitive technology, our engineers have been reverse engineering every piece of alien tech they could get their hands on." The ships looked nothing like the sleek Council vessels Chen had seen in official broadcasts. These were angular, aggressive designs that seemed built for one purpose: war. They bristled with weapon systems that shouldn't have existed according to Council technology restrictions. "The Council made one crucial mistake," Vasquez continued. "They assumed humans would follow their rules. They didn't account for human curiosity, human stubbornness, or human refusal to stay within prescribed boundaries." "What about the bioships that attacked the Endeavor?" Chen asked. "Zephalian harvest vessels. Your encounter has accelerated their timeline. They know we're aware of the harvesting operations now. Intelligence suggests they're preparing to move against Earth directly." Vasquez stood and extended a hand to Chen. "Sarah, I'm offering you a choice. You can accept reassignment to a desk job on Mars and spend the rest of your life knowing you could have made a difference. Or you can join the HDI and help us fight back. Chen looked at the Admiral's outstretched hand. She thought about the empty streets of New Geneva, the crystal formations that hummed with the energy of mass murder, the organic ships that moved like cosmic sharks through space. What did you have in mind? Chen asked, taking Vasquez's hand. We're going to hit them first, Vasquez said with a predator's smile. The Zephalians have a major harvesting facility in the Kepler 442 system. Intelligence indicates they're processing populations from at least 6 different species there. You want to rescue the prisoners? I want to burn their facility to the ground and send a message to every shepherd species in the galaxy. Humanity is off the menu. Chen felt something cold and deadly settling in her chest. For 20 years, humanity had been the grateful junior partners in a galactic civilization. They had followed rules, accepted limitations, and trusted in alien wisdom. Now she understood the truth. They had been lambs raised by wolves, fed and fattened for eventual slaughter. The wolves had made one critical error, though. They had given the lambs time to grow teeth. When do we leave? Chen asked. Tomorrow, Vasquez replied. I'm giving you command of the HDI's newest ship, the Fury. She's equipped with weapons the Council has never seen, and defensive systems they can't imagine. What about Director Webb? The Council will know we're coming. Vasquez's smile turned ice cold. Webb won't be reporting to anyone. He had an unfortunate accident this morning. It seems he fell down some stairs, several times. As Chen left the detention cell, she felt humanity's innocence dying behind her. They had spent 20 years believing they were joining a community of enlightened species. Instead, they had been marked for extinction by creatures that viewed them as nothing more than complicated livestock. The wolves had raised the wrong species. Now it was time to show them what Earth's apex predators could do when their young were threatened. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Fury, watching Earth shrink behind them as humanity's hidden fleet moved toward war. Around her, 15 other warships accelerated through space with deadly purpose. Each vessel represented 20 years of secret preparation. Human engineering pushed beyond what the Council thought possible. The Fury itself was a masterpiece of hidden innovation. Where Council ships relied on energy shields and plasma weapons, human engineers had developed quantum barrier technology and gravitational disruptors. The aliens had taught humanity the basics of faster-than-light travel, not realizing that human creativity would improve on their designs within a single generation. Jump coordinates locked in, reported Navigation Officer Kim Park. Kepler 442 system. 12 hours to target. Chen nodded, her mind focused on the mission ahead. Intelligence had confirmed that the Zephalians were operating a massive harvesting facility in the system. Orbital processing stations were captured. Populations were systematically converted into biological resources for the Council War machine. Dr. Tanaka worked at a science station that barely resembled the equipment from the Endeavor. Human technology had evolved rapidly once freed from Council restrictions. Her screen showed tactical displays that could track individual alien ships across multiple star systems simultaneously. Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures around Kepler 442b, Tanaka reported. At least 40 Zephalian bioships in defensive positions around 3 orbital facilities. Life signs on the stations? Thousands, Captain. Multiple species being held in what appear to be breeding and processing centers. Chen felt her jaw tighten. The Zephalians weren't just harvesting existing populations. They were running breeding programs to produce more victims for their operations. How many species had suffered this fate over the millennia? How many civilizations had been reduced to nothing more than genetic material for Council expansion? All ships prepare for combat operations, Chen broadcast to the fleet. Remember, our primary mission is to rescue the prisoners and destroy the harvesting infrastructure. Secondary objectives include capturing any Council technology and gathering intelligence on their operations. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, and Chen got her first look at the enemy's operation. The orbital stations were massive structures that looked like mechanical parasites feeding on the planet below. Ships moved between them in patterns that reminded her of insects tending to their hive. But the Zephalian bioships were already moving to intercept them. The alien vessels flowed through space like living creatures, their organic hulls shifting and changing configuration as they prepared for battle. Incoming transmission from the lead Zephalian vessel. Communications Officer Torres reported. The view screen flickered to life, showing a creature that looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a spider. Its multifaceted eyes reflected the bridge lights as it spoke in clicking, translated speech. Human vessels, you are in violation of Council space. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. Chen stepped forward, her voice carrying the cold fury that had been building since New Geneva. Zephalian Commander, you are in possession of illegally captured sentient beings. Release them immediately or we will take them by force. The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Humans do not give orders to the Council. You are livestock pretending to be shepherds. We will process your crews along with the others. Wrong answer, Chen said, cutting the transmission. The battle began with the Zephalians charging forward in their typical intimidation pattern. Their bioships were designed to terrify primitive species into submission through sheer size and alien appearance. They had never faced an enemy that had been preparing for this exact confrontation for 20 years. The human fleet spread into attack formations that the aliens had never encountered. Instead of meeting the charge head-on, the human ships used their superior maneuverability to attack from multiple angles simultaneously. Chen watched the tactical display as her weapons officer, Lieutenant Commander Jackson, brought their primary systems online. Gravitational disruptors charged and ready, Captain. Fire at will. The Fury's main weapons were based on human understanding of quantum mechanics rather than Council energy weapon technology. Instead of trying to overwhelm alien shields with brute force, they disrupted the gravitational fields that held matter together at the atomic level. The first Zephalian bioship simply came apart when hit by the disruptor beam. Its organic hull separated into component atoms as the forces holding its molecular structure together were neutralized. The alien crew never had time to understand what killed them. Target destroyed, Jackson reported, moving to secondary target. Around them, the human fleet was demonstrating tactical innovations that the Council had never imagined. Ships that could phase in and out of normal spacetime. Weapons that fired through dimensional barriers to strike targets from impossible angles. Defensive systems that turned enemy energy beams back on their sources. But the most shocking revelation came when Dr. Tanaka activated humanity's secret weapon. Captain, initiating temporal echo protocol. Chen watched in fascination as her tactical display showed multiple versions of each human ship appearing simultaneously. The temporal technology they had discovered at New Geneva had been reverse-engineered and weaponized. Instead of using time manipulation to perfect harvesting techniques, humans used it to exist in multiple timeline vectors at once. Each human vessel could now attack from several different temporal positions simultaneously, making them nearly impossible for the aliens to target effectively. The Zephalians found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Zephalian formation breaking apart, Torres reported. They're trying to retreat toward the orbital stations. Don't let them reach the prisoners, Chen ordered. All ships intercept and destroy. The battle became a running chase as the surviving Zephalian ships tried to reach the safety of their heavily defended processing stations. But human engineering had produced vessels that could outrun and outmaneuver anything in the Council fleet. One by one, the bioships were hunted down and destroyed. Their organic hulls, designed to intimidate and terrify, proved vulnerable to weapon systems they had never encountered before. Last Zephalian vessel destroyed, Jackson reported. All enemy ships eliminated. Chen turned her attention to the orbital processing stations. Through her ship's enhanced sensors, she could see the horrifying reality of Council livestock management. Massive chambers filled with members of various species, sorted by age and genetic compatibility. Production facilities where sentient beings were reduced to their component biological materials. All ships, target the processing infrastructure, Chen ordered. I want those stations reduced to scrap metal. The human fleet opened fire on the orbital facilities with concentrated fury. 20 years of anger at Council deception, grief for lost colonies, and determination to prevent future atrocities poured out through their weapon systems. But even as the stations exploded in brilliant flashes of destruction, Chen knew this was only the beginning. The Zephalians were just one of 12 Council species. Each of them had been participating in this systematic harvesting for millennia. Captain, Tanaka called from her station. I'm detecting escape pods launching from the stations, thousands of them. Recovery operations, all ships, Chen ordered. I want every survivor brought aboard and given medical attention. As human vessels moved to rescue the prisoners, Chen stared at the wreckage of the Zephalian operation. The aliens had made a fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. They had assumed that 20 years of council oversight had domesticated the species. They had forgotten that humans were descended from persistence hunters who had chased prey across continents. From pack predators who coordinated attacks across vast territories, from survivors who had endured ice ages, plagues, and wars through sheer stubborn refusal to surrender. The Council had given humanity access to galactic technology while believing they could control and eventually harvest them. Instead, they had armed their own executioners. All ships report successful rescue operations, Torres announced. We've recovered over 8,000 prisoners from 6 different species. Chen nodded, but her expression remained grim. They had won this battle, but the war was just beginning. 12 ancient species had been feeding on younger civilizations for thousands of years. They would not give up their position of dominance without a fight. Set course for the Sol system, Chen ordered. It's time to let the Council know that humanity is no longer following their rules. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened on Nexus Prime, an ancient space station that had served as the seat of galactic government for over 10,000 years. Representatives from the 12 member species gathered in the vast circular chamber where they had made decisions that affected trillions of lives across countless worlds. Matriarch Thais of the ethereal collective floated in her containment field, her gaseous form shifting colors to reflect her growing concern. The loss of the Zephalian harvesting operation had sent shockwaves through council space. In 10 millennia of rule, no livestock species had ever successfully resisted a harvesting operation. The humans have demonstrated capabilities that should not exist, Thais stated, her translated voice carrying harmonic overtones of worry. Our analysis of the battle footage shows technology that violates several fundamental laws of physics. Commander Vex of the hegemonic empire slammed a massive fist on his control console. The reptilian warrior stood 3 meters tall, his species having earned their place in the council through military conquest of dozens of lesser races. Analysis is for cowards, Vex growled. These mammals destroyed 40 of our finest bioships and eliminated an entire harvesting facility. They must be exterminated before their rebellion spreads to other livestock species. Hive Queen Zara of the Zephalians clicked her mandibles in agitation. Her species had suffered the most from humanity's unexpected resistance, losing not only their harvesting operation but also centuries of genetic research. The humans used our own temporal technology against us, she reported. Somehow they learned to reverse engineer our time manipulation systems and weaponize them in ways we never considered. High Archivist Kren of the Void. Seekers consulted ancient databases with mechanical precision. His cybernetic race had joined the Council 5,000 years ago after demonstrating superior information processing capabilities. Historical analysis indicates no precedent for livestock species developing such advanced military technology within a single generation, Kren stated. The humans were restricted to primitive fusion drives and basic energy weapons as of their last inspection. Clearly, they were hiding their true capabilities, interjected Sage Marin of the Celestial Order. Her crystalline form pulsed with calculated light patterns as she accessed her species' vast memory crystals. The question is, what else are they hiding? The debate continued for hours as the council members struggled to understand how their carefully managed system had failed so catastrophically. For millennia, they had operated under a simple principle. Technological advancement was controlled by the shepherds, while livestock species were kept at subsistence levels until harvest time. But even as they debated, reports arrived of new disasters across council space. Human ships had struck 3 more harvesting facilities in distant systems, each attack more devastating than the last. Worse, they weren't simply destroying the installations. They were broadcasting the truth about council operations to every inhabited world in the galaxy. The humans have accessed the Nexus Prime archives, Kren announced, his mechanical voice carrying unprecedented urgency. They have downloaded complete records of council operations dating back 6,000 years. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Those archives contained detailed records of every species that had been harvested, every breeding program, Every systematic genocide the Council had conducted in the name of galactic stability. How is that possible? Theiss demanded. Nexus Prime's security systems are impenetrable. Apparently not to human technology, Kren replied. They use some form of quantum infiltration that bypassed our defenses entirely. Commander Vex rose from his position, his massive form radiating barely controlled violence. Enough talking. I am taking the Imperial fleet to Earth immediately. These mammals will learn the price of defying the Council. Wait, Sage Marin interjected, her crystalline form flashing urgent patterns. Intelligence reports indicate that human ships are already moving against Council homeworlds. They're not retreating to their territory. They're bringing the war to us. As if summoned by her words, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency broadcasts filled the chamber as defensive systems activated across Council space. 37 human vessels have been detected moving toward the hegemonic Empire's capital system, a technician reported. Another fleet is approaching ethereal collective space. They're hitting us simultaneously across multiple fronts. The Council members stared at tactical displays showing the scope of humanity's offensive. This wasn't the desperate last stand of a cornered species. This was a coordinated military campaign designed to cripple the Council's ability to function. They're targeting our infrastructure, Kren observed, analyzing attack patterns with mechanical precision. Communication hubs, supply depots, administrative centers. They're trying to collapse our governmental systems. But the most devastating reports came from the Outer Rim territories, where dozens of client species were receiving human broadcasts about the true nature of Council rule. Species that had served the Council faithfully for centuries were learning that they existed only as potential livestock, their populations managed and their breeding controlled until harvest time. Rebellion is spreading, Theiss reported, her gaseous form shifting to deep red patterns of alarm. 17 client species have declared independence in the past 6 hours. They're requesting human military support to resist Council retaliation. The ancient order that had ruled the galaxy for 10 millennia was collapsing in real time. The carefully maintained balance between shepherds and livestock was crumbling as the truth spread to every corner of Council space. How many species have we harvested over the millennia? Sage Marin asked quietly. Kren consulted his databases with mechanical efficiency. Complete harvesting operations, 237 species. Partial harvesting with breeding program maintenance, over 800 species. The numbers hung in the chamber like accusations. Nearly 1,000 sentient species had been reduced to nothing more than biological resources for Council expansion. Their cultures, their achievements, their hopes and dreams all sacrificed to maintain the power structure that kept the 12 in control. The humans know all of this, Theiss observed. They have proof of every operation, every harvesting quota, every breeding program. They're using our own records to turn the galaxy against us. Commander Vex's roar of rage echoed through the chamber. Then we activate the stellar cleansing protocol. If we cannot maintain order through traditional means, we will remind the galaxy why they should fear us. The other Council members turned toward Vex in shock. The stellar cleansing protocol was the ultimate weapon, developed in the early days of Council rule to deal with species that posed existential threats to galactic order. You would destroy entire star systems? Marin asked, her crystalline form flashing patterns of horror. I would preserve Council authority by any means necessary, Vex replied. The protocol can be activated remotely from this station. We can eliminate human space entirely within hours. Hive Queen Zara's mandibles clicked in agreement. The livestock must be reminded of their place. If we cannot harvest them, we will ensure no one can. The protocol requires unanimous Council approval, Kren stated, accessing the relevant legal frameworks. All 12 member species must agree to stellar cleansing operations. One by one, the Council members registered their votes. Fear of losing their ancient dominance overcame any moral considerations about genocide. The protocol was approved with only Sage Marin abstaining. Stellar cleansing protocol activated, Vex announced with grim satisfaction. Automated weapon platforms throughout human space will receive firing commands within the hour. Every star in their territory will be destabilized simultaneously. But even as the Council prepared to commit ultimate genocide, reports continued arriving of human victories across the galaxy. Their technology seemed to advance with each battle, their tactics becoming more sophisticated, their coordination more precise. Incoming priority transmission, a technician announced. It's from the human fleet. The view screen activated, showing Captain Sarah Chen standing on the bridge of her vessel. Behind her, tactical displays showed the scope of humanity's offensive operations across Council space. "Council members," Chen said, her voice carrying the cold authority of someone who held all the cards. "By now you've activated your doomsday weapon. You think you can destroy our worlds before we can stop you?" She paused, and her expression shifted to something that made even Commander Vex step backward involuntarily. "You're about to learn why that was a mistake," Chen continued. "You see, we've had 20 years to study your technology, including your stellar weapons. Did you really think we wouldn't find a way to turn them against you?" The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. In the distance, the first reports began arriving of stellar weapon platforms around human worlds going offline. But worse than that were the readings coming from council space itself. The weapons they had intended to use for genocide were being turned around, their targeting systems compromised by human infiltration. Instead of destroying human stars, they were preparing to fire on the homeworlds of the species that had created them. Captain Sarah Chen felt the transformation beginning as she placed her hands on the alien control interface. The Stellar Cleansing Protocol platform hung in space like a mechanical Death Star, its ancient systems designed to destroy entire solar systems at the touch of a button. But instead of using it for genocide, she was about to turn 10,000 years of oppression on its head. "Are you sure about this?" Dr. Tanaka asked, her voice tight with concern. "The interface wasn't designed for human physiology. We don't know what it might do to you." Chen looked around the control chamber at her team. They had fought their way through 3 layers of automated defenses to reach the platform's core. Around them, similar operations were taking place on dozens of other platforms throughout council space. Humanity's final gambit was about to play out across the galaxy. "Someone has to do it," Chen replied, "and we're running out of time." Through the platform's sensors, she could see the council fleets converging on human positions throughout the galaxy. Despite their victories, humanity was still outnumbered 1,000 to 1. The only way to end this war was to remove the council's ability to wage it entirely. Chen pressed her palms against the control interface and immediately felt alien technology interfacing with her nervous system. The sensation was indescribable, like having her consciousness expanded across multiple dimensions simultaneously. She could suddenly perceive the entire network of stellar weapons as if they were extensions of her own body. But the interface was doing more than just connecting her to the weapons. It was merging human intuition with council computational power, creating something unprecedented in galactic history. Chen felt her awareness expanding beyond normal space-time, allowing her to perceive multiple quantum realities at once. "Sarah," Tanaka called out, "your life signs are fluctuating wildly. Your brain activity is off the charts." Chen barely heard her. She was experiencing something no human had ever felt before: the ability to exist across multiple timeline vectors simultaneously. Instead of using temporal technology to refine harvesting techniques like the Council had done, she was learning to manipulate time itself. Through the weapons network, she could see every Council homeworld, every military installation, every seat of power that had oppressed younger species for millennia. But she could also see something else: the fear in their leaders' eyes as they realized their ancient dominance was ending. On Nexus Prime, the Council members watched in horror as their stellar weapons turned toward their own systems. Commander Vex pounded his control console in futile rage as his carefully planned genocide became impossible to execute. "The platforms aren't responding to our commands," Hive Queen Zara reported, her mandibles clicking in panic. "Something is overriding our control protocols." "The humans," Matriarch Thys replied, her gaseous form shifting to deep purple patterns of despair. "They've weaponized our own technology against us." But Chen wasn't interested in genocide. Through her expanded consciousness, she could perceive the billions of innocent lives on Council worlds, beings who had been born into a system they never chose, raised to believe that harvesting younger species was natural and necessary. Instead of destroying their worlds, she began systematically dismantling their infrastructure of oppression. Military shipyards that produced harvesting vessels simply stopped functioning, their control systems rewritten to prevent future weapons production. Communication networks that spread Council propaganda were reprogrammed to broadcast the truth about their history of systematic genocide. Most importantly, She began freeing the prisoners across council space. Breeding facilities that had held countless species in captivity for generations suddenly opened their doors. Transportation systems that had moved victims to processing centers were redirected to carry them toward freedom. The entire apparatus of systematic oppression began operating in reverse. On the bridge of the Fury, Admiral Vasquez watched tactical displays showing the scope of the transformation. "My God," she whispered. "Sarah's not just stopping the weapons. She's liberating the entire galaxy." The change rippled outward from each stellar platform like waves across a cosmic ocean. Species that had been held in council breeding programs for centuries were suddenly free to return to their homeworlds. Others, whose original planets had been destroyed, were given access to uninhabited systems where they could rebuild their civilizations. But the most profound change was happening to the council species themselves. As their ancient power structure collapsed around them, many began questioning the system they had supported for so long. On worlds throughout council space, citizens were learning the truth about their government's activities for the first time. Commander Vex made one final desperate attempt to maintain control. His flagship, the Dominion, charged toward Earth with the remaining Imperial fleet, intending to destroy humanity's homeworld through brute force if nothing else. But Chen was ready for him. Through the weapons network, she could perceive his approach from multiple timeline vectors. As his fleet entered Earth's solar system, they found themselves facing not just human defenders, but temporal echoes of every species the Council had ever oppressed. The ghosts of 1,000 extinct civilizations seemed to rise from the quantum foam itself, their combined fury channeled through human technology into a force that no amount of military power could overcome. The Imperial fleet simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, but rather edited out of the timeline entirely. "Vex's fleet is gone," Vasquez reported in amazement. "It's like they were never there." Chen felt the weight of 10,000 years of oppression lifting from the galaxy like a physical burden being removed from her shoulders. Through her expanded consciousness, she could perceive the joy of newly freed populations, the relief of species that had lived in constant fear of harvesting, the hope of civilizations that could finally control their own destiny. But the transformation was changing her as well. Her consciousness was becoming something beyond purely human. Expanded across multiple quantum realities and timeline vectors, she was becoming the first of a new kind of being, a guardian that existed across all possible futures to ensure that such systematic oppression could never return. "Sarah," Tanaka called out urgently, "your human life signs are becoming undetectable. Whatever you're becoming, you're moving beyond baseline human physiology." Chen understood what was happening to her. The interface had evolved her beyond the limitations of single timeline existence. She was becoming something new, not fully human anymore, but not alien either. A hybrid consciousness capable of perceiving and protecting the galaxy across all possible quantum realities. "Don't mourn for me," she said, her voice now carrying harmonics from multiple timeline vectors simultaneously. "I'm not dying. I'm becoming something that can ensure this never happens again." One by one, the council members on Nexus Prime began requesting terms for surrender. Without their weapons, their fleets, or their infrastructure of oppression, they were just 12 frightened species facing the combined fury of everyone they had victimized over the millennia. But Chen had no interest in revenge. Through the quantum interface, she could perceive that the cycle of predator and prey could finally be broken. Instead of allowing the newly freed species to destroy their former oppressors, she began establishing something entirely new, a galactic confederation based on voluntary cooperation rather than systematic exploitation. The Terran Alliance was born in that moment, with representatives from over 300 species working together to establish new principles of interstellar governance. No species would be classified as livestock, no breeding programs would be permitted, no harvesting operations would be tolerated, and watching over it all, existing across multiple quantum realities simultaneously, Sarah Chen became humanity's eternal guardian, ensuring that never again would Earth's children face extinction while her vigilance remained. The final scene played out as human ships arrived at distant worlds where signs of new harvesting operations had been detected, but instead of finding victims, they found empty facilities and freed populations. The message that had become humanity's creed echoed across the galaxy through quantum communication networks that span multiple realities. "No one hunts our species. No one harvests the innocent. And if you try, we will show you why they call us the Fury of Terra. The Council's 10,000-year reign of terror was over. In its place stood something the galaxy had never seen before. A civilization based on protection rather than predation, on cooperation rather than exploitation. And guarding it all, the quantum consciousness that had once been Sarah Chen watched over the stars, making sure that the nightmare of systematic harvesting would remain forever buried in the past. The galaxy was free, and humanity had become its unlikely liberators.